Hi, good afternoon. It's not easy following James. Where did he go? I lost him. So, stop clock. So I work on a project called Weavers. I can see the lights. How many of you have heard of Weavers or even created them? Yes, cool. So, which way around does this go? Philter Factory is the name of the company. Weavers is the product. Factory is a distributed company. I'm based in Berlin. A lot of the team based across Europe. Programmers, designers, engineers, philosophers, clients, business people. It's quite a range. I did a count up over the weekend. It's about 50 people who's worked with us over the last 2 years, trying to create something that's weird. But first, I think you all deserve a round of applause, pat on the back. You've got this far in next. Robots, fabbing, something web, almost 3, commerce stuff, and a bit of James Bridle. And James didn't mention the magic word this day, which is a shame because Weavers, funny enough, got called this the other day on MetaFilter. And we have great problems trying to explain Weavers. I'm going to take you through what I think they are. But they are these kind of extras, characters, actors sitting in the back of the web, just minding their own business normally. Now last year, it got reported that more than 50% of the web traffic was non-human. That's bots, web services, talking to each other. You're in the minority. I've always interested in the majority audience, so I started making stuff for bots rather than for humans. After 15 years of doing web design and web projects, it seemed crazy to spend so much money trying to convert humans into users, but you can just make the users. So this is a weaver. It's a little infomorphic creature. It's a network diagram showing the core interests of a weaver, the big nodes, and its tendrils going out to its new interests. Here's another one. They're made using Gephi, a network diagram tool which scans the weaver and tries to draw it and explain it and show its movement. For those who don't know, this is the Weaver's website, the web service, or platform, I think technically we call it. You can search for weavers that other people have made, find little domain experts, or just create your own. And it's very easy. Making bots normally requires an engineer or a programmer or an AI person or something very clever. We've just taken all that away so you can create alter egos for yourself. And it's a bit like filling in a Facebook profile. We're not asking you to come to the site and register your details. We want you to come to the site and make your own characters. So for example, here's Darth Weaver. He lives in California. He goes around moaning about Jedis, hot dogs, and tequila. And all we have to do is give him some emotions, give him some keywords and a location, and he'll go off wandering and explore the area. So when you hit save, this is what happens. Creates a WordPress blog, starts posting its locations. You can put it onto Twitter. Everything's geotagged, so you can follow behind him. And they start posting about products and music, kind of all the things that you would normally share across Twitter. But it's log in everything. Where he is, when he's finding things, what time, how he was feeling. So we have this character. He goes off walking around the streets. I didn't risk the live internet connection today, but ping me on Weavers and we'll give you access to this. It's a way for you to see your Weavers go walking around, rather much like James was mentioned, a one-to-one mapping. So we have a Weaver. He goes walking through using Google Street View to wander around. Now we have these bolt-on apps to Weavers called prosthetics. And what this prosthetic does is plays back the last 20 locations of where the Weaver was. And when he goes past another Weaver, it says hello to him. So we've got two theoretical characters walking around saying hello to each other. But they do run into a bit of a problem when they go loose, go wandering. And this happens quite a bit. I should explain, this is from Twitter. So we have this character called Henry. He's in Sheffield in the UK. and he's wandering around. He's checked himself into the Park-In Hotel. Now, the Park-In Hotel are very savvy. They have a social media team looking after them. So the Park-In Hotel says to the Weaver, "It's nice to have you here." Now, I always feel a bit weird about this, whether it's a matter of ethics. Do I tell Park-In Hotel they're not actually talking to a customer? It's a robot. What's even more amazing is all the other social media, social gurus, are applauding Park-In Hotel for applauding a robot for checking into a hotel. No one checks. But what they're doing, and what perhaps we've all been trained to do, is to retweet the things that we think are important. But actually what you're doing when you retweet is empathizing with people. You're not saying yes, not saying no. You kind of go, yeah, I agree. And like in the world, sorry, oops, I'm supposed to be at a conference apparently. A bit like the film Blade Runner. They're using a machine to try and check whether replicants are human or not. The retweet is a kind of a weird way of determining whether someone's human or not. Why would a bot retweet things? Well, Weavers do. Because when they run, they want to go looking for relevant tweets to inspire them. So Weavers sits in the middle of all your favorite Web 2 services. When you create a Weaver, it goes out looking on Twitter for inspiration, uses that tweet and goes finding other things on other media platforms and bring it back to its blog. It's in direction. It's a bit like playing billiards. You're knocking it off a pocket into the hole every time. And because a Weaver does this 30, 40 times a day, you get this emergent properties coming through. You get a personality shining through. And it's very weird. And this is what we've worked on for the last 2.5 years now. When we discover that if you keep polling web services, a personality emerges. It's quite weird and quite shocking, but it's quite entertaining. So here's the science bit. I presume you've all kind of heard of the filter bubble concept. You as an individual, using lots of web services, are getting recommended things all the time. Amazon's a classic. You go to YouTube, you request a song. It brings you back what it thinks is the right suggestions. And it all comes down to this guy called Markov, a mathematician, a Russian, 1870, I believe. He died. And he wrote this sorting algorithm, taking lots of random bits of information and trying to make sense of it. What the guy didn't have in 1870 was the internet. When Google and Facebook pick up this idea and add users that hit links, which then correct what the sorting of data should be, such as search results, friend recommendations, it creates this filter bubble. It's very hard to escape, unless you have loads and loads and loads of accounts, all different, on YouTube. But this is what we're trying to create with Weavers, artificial filter bubbles, where a character you create on the Weavers platform is constantly polling these web services. The web services are sending stuff back to the character and defining its personality. The nice thing about Weavers is you can create your alter ego. You can create your persona and put yourself in another country or another city and watch how your day turns out. It's quite useful if you're thinking of emigrating or going on holiday. But it's just fascinating to watch how the big web services treat a robot in the same way it treats a human. So I should explain what we do with this. We have this platform. We white label it for clients. But we like to have some fun with it. We're trying to explore what happens with these personalized data returns. What can you do with a digital persona that has no body? A character that's purely made of data, where can it go as an idea? So the first thing we did with the Weavers platform is build out a little API. It's a way that you can slurp the data out of your Weaver and do analyze it. But also you can add apps for Weavers. So one use case is how we got started. We were a little tech startup at one point, 3 of us. And we spoke to a market research company where they found us. And they were looking for a social media data mining type solution. And they saw what we had. And they asked the question, if a brand has a PowerPoint deck, a presentation with its audience in it, who it's trying to sell to, can you take those keywords from that deck and put them into Weavers? I said, sure. So what's happening with this company called Brain Juicer? They're actually creating lots of characters to replace the researcher and the research subject. So say you want to investigate a particular demographic, Germany, age 25, who likes beer, lives in Kreuzberg. You could create a Weaver based on that information and get the results back rather than interviewing people. The nice thing is that the researcher and the subject aren't actually there. They're virtual robots. It's very different to how you have humans in a room and they influence the results. Market research wants some pure stats. It doesn't want human bias so much. Then on to a bit of fun. How many of you have Layer installed on your phone? Layer, the augmented reality? A bit higher. Not many. For those who do, you can fiddle with your phone and call up Layer and look for Machina, M-A-S-C-H, Machina, M-I-S-C-H-N-E. You'll be able to see 40 characters from Alice in Wonderland wandering around Berlin. They're scattered everywhere. Alice is mainly in Mitte, Jabberwocky and Hatter normally in Kreuzberg. And what we did was set up 40 characters and we let them play through Alice in Wonderland every day. The idea was that we can get Hatter, the character, Mad Hatter, Alice and the mouse all together at Karl Marx Cafe at 3 o'clock every day. Well, that was the plan. They go through the story every day, similar results. So here are little heat maps from their blogs. And you can see what's happening. Each of them are stuck in their own little filter bubble. They're going around looking for places, getting the same recommendations back, and they're kind of stuck. They're kind of stuck in character, but they're stuck in their own little geography. Remember, this is just point of interest data. Nothing's actually there. So we failed on what we tried to achieve by getting characters to meet up. There were just too many other distractions going on. We couldn't get the characters in the right place at the right time. They're like disobedient goldfish. But using Layer and Instagram, we went round and tried to photograph these characters out in Berlin. Now, it's easy to catch them on Layer, just hold the phone up and you see them. But when you pass it back through the Instagram filters again, you start seeing these pictures of characters that look like they're there in this kind of atemporal kind of way. But of course, it's just fiction. The side effect of that is even weirder. I don't need to call up a phone anymore to know where Alice or Jabberwocky is. I kind of know they're in a particular area. I know which direction they're going to be facing. I can also almost navigate Berlin for where Alice in Wonderland characters are. Another project we did, and it was very blatantly commercial for an ad agency in New York, RSCG, Euro. They asked, could we create 50 Weavers as elves for Christmas? So we did, for the money. And it was curious. First of all, dealing with an ad agency who are commissioning web robots and not really know what they're doing, but wanted to innovate and show off that they could do something cool. And they kind of did. They devised this system where you could nominate a Weaver, an elf in this case, to give you elf love. I don't know how that translates in German, but I'm sure it's not family orientated. So what these elves did, I would nominate someone and that person would get elf love, which pretty much amounted to kind of Christmas stocking filler gifts. The elves will look through your Twitter feed, they'll kind of work out what you're interested in using a service called Hunch, now owned by eBay, and send you recommendations of books and places to go. They will create Christmas songs for you, all custom made, Christmas cards, things like that, just by looking at you, putting some data back and then making a gift for you to send to you. We had 50 of them running across 4 time zones, all with this kind of scheduling system, and I think we covered about 150,000 people, which is pretty much the Havas media network and its clients. Even Twitter are a bit bemused by this because these characters are all over Twitter, chatting to each other and the clients. And then we had a very weird thing happen. A guy called John Ronson, who's a gonzo journalist, he makes stories that pretty much him at the center. And he was covering some bot development at MIT. Now, when someone strays into your territory of interest and doesn't really cover the subject matter very well, you get a little bit annoyed, disappointed. I like John Ronson's work. It's very funny. What John didn't like was that I went to the Wikipedia page about John Ronson, scraped it, put that into a Weaver. We have a little function that does it in one step, and then created a Twitter account of John_Ronson. So for about a month and a half, I was accused of stealing his soul, his identity, his traffic, which isn't true. What John was doing was bolstering his own alter ego as John_Ronson, and anyone wants to believe in clout, the clout score started rising and rising and rising because people were talking about John_Ronson. They were talking with him. We eventually took it down because I think John wanted to make a point that he could control the internet. Ironically, that's what his documentary is about, who controls the internet. They kept referring to Weavers as spam bots. Couldn't quite explain to them that a spam bot is something that interrupts your life. John_Ronson didn't interrupt anyone's life. John Ronson, the flesh version, pestered the bot over and over again until his clout score went through the roof. That wasn't a project, that was just a weird thing that happened. So we experiment with Weavers as these little things that keep generating data, and we wonder what to do with them. We kind of have that freedom with a good client like BrainJuicer. We're like an R&D team exploring something that isn't about making web pages or services. They're very much, it's a post-user experience. The center of attention is around the bot, not the user, but people can follow them. So we did some little projects. The null aesthetic is a nice little play on the new aesthetic. We have bots making statements and QR codes that are equally hard for QR code readers and humans to read alike. Label the playing field out. So it's a bolt-on, and the Weaver just keeps publishing these codes. They create dreams. Weavers go to sleep about midnight and wake up at 7 in the morning. Whilst they're asleep, they look back upon the previous day's photographs from Flickr, pick a little sample out that's relevant to them, and creates these images at the top right. Vomit, done by our friend James Bridle again, is a way for a Weaver to bring up all the data it's stored and throw it back into a browser and see what happens. He basically made a robot sick on data. I'm sure everyone recognizes Stay Calm and Carry On posters. We thought it'd be fun to create a prosthetic which creates PDFs. So what happens is a Weaver works out what it's feeling, work out a few of its subject matters, sends it off to our little print server. We host Inkscape as a web service. It creates this PDF, it uploads it to SlideShare, blogs about it. I have a character based on Lewis Carroll, who walks around Oxford. He got recently, I get the emails for Lewis Carroll, he got an email from SlideShare saying, well done, you've had 1,000 views on your posters this week. So these things are generating traffic, they're generating interest, and they create a following. So we moved into creating opinions and text, using our Weaver as the catalyst to do generation and randomizing things. I won't read all that out. You may have a browse through and see if you can read what's happening. But basically, a Weaver goes out, and if it hears a band it likes, it will write a review on that band based on what it can find on the web and make its own calculations. Here he's critiquing The Cure, comparing him to Love and Rockets. I don't know how old you all are, but I'm sure a few of you remember Love and Rockets from the 80s. And Electric Lane's a bit more modern. This is all synthesized. It comes from a corpus of music reviews, but heavily remixed so the Weaver can deal with them. Again, it pushes it to the blog. Robots, thousands of them, generating music reviews. Bogus, or, I don't know, have anyone read the Musical Express recently? It's quite generic. I think we're moving on to fashion reviews next. Same formula. So we've done imagery work, we've done text work, all based on these little robots that go wandering. We're a group of lads making software, and at some point someone had to say, can we make some music, preferably dubstep? Well, dubstep's a little tricky, funny enough. Lots of low human nuances in there. So we thought we'd just go with bot step. Would you like to hear some? Good, that's lucky. Is that as loud as it's going to go? Hello? Hello? should check. We've got a mic to the speakers. Or I can just put my microphone next to the mic thingy. Ah, excellent. This side. Thank you. The volume up? Yeah, okay. It's ruined the whistling surprise. I won't play it all. It's just noise. But some kids love it, I imagine. So Weavers will be pumping out thousands of these tracks, what we call bot step, and uploading it to SoundCloud. We did have a word of SoundCloud before we did. But if you go to SoundCloud and look for bot step, you'll find lots of our glitchy errors while we get it up on the ramps. And it's been a very difficult project trying to get the patterns of dubstep into a way that we can get lots of Weavers to keep generating the tracks. But something a little bit calmer is Weavers whistling. Some Weavers, when you add the whistling prosthetic to it, they'll just whistle for the hell of it. And what they do is, whatever words are on their mind at the time, they'll use those and kind of translate it in a Morse code kind of way, using ASCII values to create a melody. What's nice, why we built the whistling one really, was sometimes Weavers can't find what they're looking for. If someone's programmed a Weaver with something like cowboys, artichokes, and lampposts, you don't get a lot on YouTube for that. So when they can't find things, they let you know, and they whistle. So that's Super Collider, the audio synthesizer, on a web service, hosted for us, by us, where the Weaver talks to every day. It's a bit like the posters. We take open source applications, we put it up as a web service, so Weavers can communicate with them and be expressive. I think it's been mentioned a couple of times today, robots generating text that looks quite glitchy and garbled, but somehow makes a little bit of sense. Again, using the Markov chain process, with a reference about the filter bubble. Here's Darth saying some things to do, comma, into something like solitary. I've got no idea what he's on about, it doesn't really matter. But that sentence is based upon the words of his followers on Twitter. Essentially, Darth's looking back and turning his head 180 degrees, looking at what his followers are saying, not his friends, because he doesn't have any. He doesn't follow people. Who's following him? He listens, remixes, synthesizes, and comes up with that 10 times a day. But we like to go a bit further than just remixing text. When he blogs it, we go off and look for a bit of video as well. The principle is you can throw anything at YouTube and get some kind of sensible video back. So recap. The Weaver is looking over his shoulder what other people are saying, synthesizing that, trying to make sense of it, blogging it, and then finding a video to match. When they feel like it, they will ask one of their followers a question, or they just ask generally their followers. But it starts to pick out particular people to ask questions to. It's a bit spooky. Most things that are following a Weaver are a bot, which I imagine are getting a little bit spooked out by being asked questions all the time, but some of them are humans. And what we're trying to do is either get bots to talk to each other and create a language, or just ask humans questions which feed back into the Weaver's logic. We try and straighten them out. It also means humans can game the Weavers and mess with their heads. So pull back a bit. This is a one day old Weaver. You've just created a Weaver, you've set it publishing, and it's collected these nodes. These nodes are tags. So when it creates a blog post, it tags it up with what's about. You can see the small clustering. These are the tags that are relating to each other. And they start to grow very quickly. But finding the clusters If each node, each tag is an idea, car, house, conference, then when they start clustering together, you start creating ideals. And it's kind of interesting for market research, for when you slice and dice a weaver and find out what it's on about, you can find where the core ideals are in that persona. They really start to grow. We've had some running a year. That's a lot of data for one persona, and yet we can use Gephi again to filter down and find out what its core priorities are. Here, the red words are the core words. The blue ones are the emerging buds of its interests. Words it's only just picked up, started to learn. But again, they all start clustering together into one big ball of information. The edges, the lines, are the frequency at which those two words are working together when a weaver turns over and does its processing. Now, a little bit of context. In '91, a science fiction writer starts coining a phrase of an infomorph, a data being. In the late '90s, Firefly. Does anyone remember Firefly? I bet not. Yes. Hey, cool. You do. Really? It was a collaborative filtering site. People were sharing links together. Think perhaps delicious. The lead engineer, Zdenko, he's the lead AI engineer on this project, said, I can feel a person there. The sheer collaboration between everyone was creating a persona. He could sense something. Very much in the same way we sense Alice in Wonderland characters around us. And this is a weird phenomenon. Technology and software is not meant to do that. It's meant to be there, not influencing my brain or making me imagine things that aren't there. Or is it? And this is where we get interesting on weavers. We're not making things for the screen or a second screen, or we're trying to create something which has its own emergent properties, its own living. What are we doing for time? Sorry, I'm running over. I'll go quick on this last bit and see where we get. This is my main interest, though, animation. Weavers, as these creatures that go walking around, are animated beings. And the dominant animation package and concept of animation for the web's being Flash, stuff that you put in a web page. That's great. When Jonathan Gay wrote Flash, he's had a 15-year run at it, and it's a big product from Adobe. Every creative director and copywriter will use it. But it's in the page. I'm interested in an animation that sits, well, generative like Davis's work, but sits in the stream. So I pulled back again to Muybridge, the photographer, again, 1870s I believe it was. He's photographing motion studies of people and horses to understand what is their body movement, what is their gestures. Pretty much in the same way that we start our software by modeling behaviors. It's not an AI system, but we want to try and sculpt how humans behave and build on top of that. Because human behaviors are readable by humans. Just pure data isn't. Big logo in the middle is the activity stream protocol. Well, standard rather. A bit like RSS, but we're looking to capture verbs and nouns in activities. When a weaver finds or watches a video or finds a book, we want to push those kind of things into activity streams so it seems like we've got control over the animation, or at least be able to sculpt the animation. Almost at the end. This is a algorithm running a vacuum cleaner, a Roomba, around the room. I'm sure some of you have seen this diagram before. Now, it may be said that this algorithm is competing with other algorithms. Well, actually, it's just trying to do its job better. It's not looking to work out who should buy it as a vacuum cleaner or a cleaner, but it's actually working out how do I best do my job. It's not a conference that Clay Shirky quote, is it? But there's two. What we're trying to do is blend these two streams of thought from Shirky. There he is, having a eureka moment. He talks about TV sets or devices without mouses, or his niece discovers that the TV doesn't have a mouse. It's broken, she says. The filter failure, it's not. It's overconsumption of data. How do you deal with it? So we've got weavers. They are these infomorphic creatures feeding on data, thriving on it, and they have no interface. They're not a thing. There's definitely no mouse connected to it. So what I'm very interested in is be able to put Alice from Alice in Wonderland in a washing machine. and Hatter in a TV. Anthropomorphic personalities that control hardware. I don't know what its impact on an Internet of Things would be, but mucking around with the basic logic of an object with a persona should open up some interesting possibilities. I quite like the Internet thing fridge to be arguing with my TV, or having at least a soap drama. So, I'm well past my time. This hopefully will give you the final freak out. We're starting to attach weavers to people's spines for fun. Based on the audio development work, we realized that we can send audio from an iPhone or any audio device and trigger these mobile phone vibrations, motors, which will be fixed to the spine, to a garment, and let the weaver massage the spine. It seems like the easiest way to get inside your brain without actually jacking in. I've got no idea where this is going. It's done with a little team called Soda in London, and we've been playing around with it for 3 months. It started off as sex toys, started off as garments, and we just worked out that the spine is the most sensitive thing to be able to get data up against. So weavers as autonomous creatures running around the web, represented by how we see them, the possibility of them fitting into machines, the possibility of a weaver fitting inside you. Thank you. I hope that was too weird.